My name is Pradith, and I was a member of Kabir's fire team. I just hope someone will.
Welcome back, Guardians, to Pradith's Party Chat. I'm Taylor,
And I'm Ethan.
and this week, we've got something special for you.
Today's topic.
Lore? Story? Speculation? All that stuff. Okay, so, we read the little narrative today, the little preview. Got me all kinds of excited for Shadowkeep and what it could hold. So that's kind of what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, looking back at where Eris left and talking with Asher and getting out of the tower. And what was interesting to me, actually, was her relationship with Zavala. Just as a little side note.
Right.
Because I think, they've talked about how she's kind of an outsider a little bit before, but they've never really shown that really deliberately. And I think with Zavala, it was deliberate. You know, like he wants her to leave, almost.
Yeah, he did. He was like, she's like, you've been making things whisper in the tower about me and how I should be leaving.
Well, that was interesting because was she
Who
talking
was
about
talking?
I think she was talking about Zavala because I think he's been running rumors about her around the tower.
Right.
And she was saying, and then that's why he looks down and he can't look at her because he feels ashamed of what he's done.
Yeah, and she knows.
And
that
I think
he's
it's funny
rumors.
because she uses the word whispers because it's that kind of ironic turnaround where like everybody talks about the whispers she hears, the fingertips on her mind kind of thing.
Well, and now it's making me think, like, does this have anything to do with the long, slow whisper from Cade 6?
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And another sidebar, I thought it was cool that Bungie, as you pointed out to me, correctly had Cade absent from this conversation.
Yeah, because he's out hunting everybody, taking them into the prison of elders.
With Petrovenge, absolutely. Yeah. And so you enlightened me, and I was like, why wouldn't Cade 6 be there? And then you were like, no, dude. He's with Petrovenge, and he's trying to catch all the bad guys. I'm like, oh, yeah, he's setting up the events for Forsaken, obviously.
Yeah, because this is right before that happens, technically. It's like it's kind of during the Red War when she leaves.
Right.
I think, well, I guess it's right before the Red War.
It would have to be
because
right
she
before
leaves
the Red
and
War?
then and then they get it, and then they get attacked.
Right.
Because she's not involved in it at all.
Right.
But anyways, that leads us into what we're going to be talking about today with story, continuing forward, talking about Shadowkeep, but also beyond, talking about the Dawn, and also going back kind of to what we talked about last week with the raids. But
right,
this
we
time
want to talk
about characters and story of the raid.
Right, and we want to talk about like things that could be brought up in Garden of Salvation with the almost like the biblical names and themes that they have going on.
Yeah, it's interesting. Well, and that plays back to how it reminds me, just as a little sidebar, of when they went back. Let's go to the Halo days, and you think about the Covenant, and you think about the Elite, the Prophets. And I think that when Bungie really dives into this idea of like religion and this idea of like these weird cult groups, I think it's cool to explore that and see the Vex, take them back to what they originally were, because we haven't seen them as the religious figure since they were bowing down to the Heart of Darkness. And that's why I'm excited about this season.
Right. I actually think this season we're going to see that the Vex are much closer to the Minions of Darkness than we realize.
Absolutely. I think it's like what we've seen explained with the conversation that Akora has they talked about in the trailer. We've listened to videos like Mylan speculation and Bife's speculation about ideas that they're saying that because it's mimicking what we've heard before in the Grimoire about how basically the Guardians are the chosen defender of the Traveler.
Right, and the Vex,
like they called out and they heard the call and they came to it, whereas the Vex are what the Darkness called out for something and the Vex
were the answer, and which is so cool that Ikora is making that kind of spin. And I guess let's just start with what we think the story might be for Shadowkeep. Yeah. And so I think it's going to start with Eris Morn, and they have a little teaser of like a t-shirt on their website right now, and it's got the 5 other Guardians that were killed with Eris Morn when they first went to Crota and tried to take revenge. And so it's got Toland, the Shattered, and Ariana, and the other 3 that I'm drawing a blank on right now. And to me, it makes me think that we're going to see like shadows of old, like former Guardians from the Great Collapse.
Yeah, and that's what it's been confirmed that the floating shadows
are Guardians.
Are killed Guardians from what
the
happened
collapse.
from Crota and his invasion too.
Correct. And so I think we're going to see a sneak peek of the Darkness,
right?
And what that race looks like. Because I was reading some lore the other day about the Aphelion, who are like a creature that like the Reef and like the Awoken seriously fear, because if you blink, you could be taken back, and the only person that's ever lived through a fight in the lore with the Aphelion was Sure Ido.
Yeah.
And so I'm wondering if Eris is going to encounter something along those lines, and that's kind of what the catalyst is for bringing back quote-unquote nightmares.
Yeah. Well, I think one big thing about that, too, when you're talking about nightmares and you're talking about the situation that they've been put in, is it's cool that they're reprising these things, because I think this is a glorified promise to the people that they're going back to what they originally did. So I think this is almost them pulling back that comment they made about Destiny being Destiny 0. I think it's almost them saying like, no.
Yeah.
It is canonical. You know, like this is part of what we want to do.
Right.
And bringing all these characters back is their way of being like, we can't bring Destiny 1 into Destiny 2.
Right.
But we can put the characters you remember and loved fighting in this kind of routine.
Well, and I think they're setting it up story-wise to kind of take it back to that darker place too,
The
and
tone,
setting up,
yeah.
because in the first Destiny there was so much talk about this darkness and this weird what was the darkness, and you know, Bungie even admitted at the time that they had no idea what the darkness was, or
Right.
what it looked like, or what it could be. And so to me, I think they're going to finally start answering that question.
Yeah.
Which to me is like what they've been hinting at with the pyramid ships at the end of the
Well,
D2 campaign.
I
I
was
think we're
just about
going
to
to start
say-
finally seeing that payoff.
Do you think the pyramid ships are the darkness?
I think they house the darkness.
Okay, because I think they might be in kind of what you're saying, but a little different. Is that I think it might be minions of the darkness who have created a vessel or a containment that kept the darkness alive when they were defeated by, kind of like pushed off by the Traveler, and
Right.
and the Traveler left with the whirlwind, for instance. I think with the Season of Dawn, I think we're gonna get finally that relationship with the Fallen that people have been seeking. So I think we'll get to kind of experience the whirlwind, not really experience it, but finally truly understand what's happening in it.
Right, I totally agree. And when you talk about the pyramid shapes, it kind of gave me an idea, like, what if, you know, those creatures that the Drifter has been talking about and his lore entries and stuff, and those frozen black figures that steal the light from you, I'm wondering, what if those, like, are the darkness, but they're like the guardians of the darkness? Kind of like they're the ones who are moving the ship around,
Right.
like they're driving the ships, and then they're using those pyramid ships as vessels to house the darkness, and they are kind of like the literal physical embodiments of the darkness.
Almost like the Nine trying to pull their embodiment into the world.
Right.
I think when I think of the Traveler, I think of the light, I think of the darkness. I put the Nine in that same category, where they're these kind of outer world entities that are kind of this existential example of what these outer powers are trying to physically manifest themselves as. And the darkness, I think, is been trying to physically manifest itself with, like, the Heart of Darkness has been this thing, this like manifestation, this thing trying to create this physical form of itself, but it's been incapable of doing it. But I think it's getting closer and closer to finally getting to that point. It's trying to solve that problem.
I totally agree. I think it's doing the exact same thing, and I think that's why the Vex are the closest to the darkness that we've seen, because it was their first vessel that they took over and that they called out, and they were the first ones to answer.
Yeah. So so like Guardians, we can use the light, but we're not of light.
Right.
Yeah, and it's like, then you look at something like, because we've seen what is of light, for instance, like when you go to the Shard of the Traveler and you see these weird,
like ethereal
visions
things,
and ethereal stuff, and it's like those are like of the light, those are like born of it,
Right.
and the ghosts are vessels of the light, just as we
Right.
are vessels of the light, and they just contain that. And I think that like you said, the Vex, the vessels of the darkness, but I say the Traveler is to the light as the Heart of Darkness is to the darkness.
Right. Yeah, I totally agree.
Where
yeah,
it's
I totally
like
agree.
these entities that are channelers.
Right, absolutely. It picks a champion, which
Right,
we are the
right.
champion, and then the Vex, in my opinion, are kind of the champion of the darkness. And so I think with the Garden of Salvation, we are going to finally see, maybe at the end of that raid, you know, what darkness is, or what their kind of final form is, and what they're kind of planning on moving towards as figures and characters in the game. Like, I think we're going to actually see the first actual darkness, whatever.
I will bet you anything that we're going to finally at least get a vision of or see or get a hint towards Queria Blade Transform.
That would be really cool.
Because
that would be really cool.
I think Queria Blade Transform is a really good example of two things that... So I think the Hive are born of defiance to the darkness. I think the Hive, like a lot of people believe they're the closest to the darkness, but in reality I think they're the farthest, because what they did, what Oryx did, was talk to the darkness, talk to the moth gods, for instance, who are part of the deep, which is, synonymous with the darkness. Mm-hmm. And he said, no, I'm gonna beat you, and I'm gonna
right.
steal your power, and I'm gonna go against you. So
right.
I think the Hive actually might be more something that we're gonna understand more, and almost it would be amazing, I think, if there was a big twist at the end of this expansion where the Hive actually came, like some of the Hive came to us and said, we know what's coming, and we don't like it either. And
that could be.
It would be interesting. That would be wild, right?
Yeah, that would
because
be wild.
We see this challenge with Eris going up against it, but she's fighting the nightmares, and I think there's this different sect. I think this might be these like Crimson Hive that we've seen in these trailers. I think they might be a sect that's almost leaning into like following the darkness.
Right. I totally agree.
Yeah,
with that. And I think that's kind of where Savathun is headed.
Yeah.
She's headed
well,
more
she's
towards
always
the,
carried the worm
right.
and listened to its whispers.
She's headed more towards, I think, the darkness.
Yeah.
And I think Oryx was like, nah, like I am the strongest and I'm going to follow the sword logic.
Yeah,
and if I kill something, I
god.
should be the biggest, the baddest. And he's like, I should be able to beat the darkness.
Yeah.
And I think Callus has a similar mindset where he's not necessarily wanting to beat the darkness, but he wants to be the last one alive against the darkness.
I'm going to run away from it until it's at its weakest, because it's fought everything else.
Right.
And I'm going to have the strongest left of everybody that I fought.
Right, absolutely. And he just wants to be the last one alive. He's not necessarily looking to beat the darkness.
Yeah, and I think one of the coolest things about Savathun is that... Well, let me say.
Are we going to see Savathun, do you think, in Shadowkeep?
I think she might be a raid boss. I think that weirdly people would go into Garden of Salvation expecting a Vex boss.
Yeah.
But at the end you're going to see Savathun.
We did see like a weird Taken... Did you see that like tentacle thing?
Yeah, and that's
in
what
the
I'm saying. Taken her in the garden.
I totally agree.
So
Taking her in the garden.
I think that she's
taken
I don't think idea.
I actually don't think it's Taken. I think that little thing might be something left over from the Heart of the Darkness, and that might be
like a manifestation
where we get to see the first figure of the darkness.
Yeah,
because the Vex are like, we're trying to birth something. We're trying to let something come into existence that we've been trying to protect. Because the Garden of Salvation, I mean, in the Black Garden is a place of like sacred religion for the Vex, and so I wonder, like, obviously that must be a place where they know something significant is going to happen in time, because obviously they're all about time, and we are coming up on that moment.
Yeah,
and so we are like, oh crap, we need to go there and stop this.
Yeah,
and they're like, no, we have to bring out all our big guns to try and keep the Guardians from stopping our side of the war, getting their guardian to their form or whatever.
Well, and what did it say, that little thing that on the schedule they had this little hint that said the last assault, or was
the
it
final assault of the Undying Mind?
Yeah, and so the Undying Mind is absolutely going to be in this, and I think it'll be more of a character than we expect. But I think
he's just going to be part of the Vex assault thing, though. I think
I'm one of those really speculative people that think, like, the Undying Mind, he's a Hydra. We know that Queria Blade Transform is a Hydra.
Is a Taken Hydra.
A Taken Hydra. I think that the Undying Mind, the reason it's I think it might be because there are multiple Undying Minds, and I think one of them might be Queria Blade Transform. I think it might be the Taken version of the Undying Mind.
That would be wild. Or they're like, in Vex, they're like brother and sister or something, or something weird like that.
Yeah, and I think the reason I want to see Queria is because I think Savathun, because in her trickery, she was able to inherit the Taken that Oryx took.
Right, so Queria now works for Savathun.
Right.
But I think I don't think we're going to see Savathun, but I do think, I think we'll either see a hint of Savathun or we'll see Queria. I don't think we'll see both, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So...
when we've been building up Savathun so much, I almost think that the end of this season might be a hint towards Queria. Like, maybe because like we have this Vex build up and everything like that, and at the end we might see like Queria doing something and like building, or like wake up and something like that. Like,
that would be wild.
Because the reason I see Queria showing up at this point is because it's so heavily involved with Savathûn, Oryx, the Taken, the Darkness, and Crota.
Oh yeah.
So I think that because it was the one that invaded Crota's realm and tricked him into that, and I think that's why I think it's viable to expect to see Queria, because it's so integral to every piece of the story that Shadowkeep is kind of leaning towards.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's been a ton of hints with like the Medusa Truth to Power lore book, where you're like getting to know Queria.
Yeah.
And she hints towards, or he, or whatever Queria is, hints towards, getting 999 power.
Yeah.
And fighting Dolan Karu.
Yeah.
And to me, I mean, this is the season where that's going to happen.
Yeah.
So if you're going to...
and that's lies being fed through Savathûn, through Queria.
Exactly.
Queria's
so like
feeding this information
Exactly.
out.
And so if it's going to happen any season, this feels like the one, because all the hardcore streamers, all of us, we're all trying to get to 999. That's like the kind of weird goal in the back of my mind of, I'm like, I am excited for Shadowkeep, but I'm more excited to find out what happens when I go beat Dolan Karu at light level 999.
Yeah.
Or when someone else does it first and I get to see what happens.
Well, because technically the true light cap is 960.
Right, but they said you can infinitely
increase
your light level with the artifact. So like, we don't know how hard that's going to be yet, but I'm like, dude, there is going to be a no-lifer out there on day one. It's like, I hit the level cap and I'm going for 999 because my goal in life is to get the Shatter Throne beat at 999 first.
Yeah.
And I can't wait to see that, because I have no idea what's going to happen. Probably nothing.
I don't think anything will, because it's a lie. And I think that's they want you to feel the disappointment of it being a lie, because they want you, because
something has to happen, like a lore book or something.
I think
something
what will
has to
happen is like a recognition, like a laugh at you or something like that, where it's like all you're doing is feeding the curse again.
And maybe that's
Queria, I think Queria is just baiting you into feeding it over and over.
Maybe
and
you
over
hear
again.
Queria. Maybe like Queria pops in.
Like Praedyth.
Yeah. Maybe Queria pops in, and you're like, what is this? What is this voice? We've never heard anything like this, and it's a Vex talking to you for the first time. Like that would be wild.
I wonder what it would be like. I mean, knowing Bungie with something like convoluted as that, where it wouldn't be part of the main story, you know that it would be sent to you in like binary.
Oh,
and
yeah,
somebody would
have
to, and somebody would
decode
would hear it in some kind of sonar beeping, or just some kind of, maybe even in Morse code, and somebody would decode it because it's just these sounds of Vex.
Yeah,
and
it would be something ludicrous like that.
Yeah,
where like only the top 1% of Destiny players will ever even hear about it, but they're the only ones that even care about it anyways.
Yeah,
so like that's what would be cool about it. That's the stuff that
people have always loved. I mean, look at the original quest for the Outbreak Prime.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it was convoluted,
mind-boggling.
Yeah, so you had to literally know binary. To solve riddles.
I remember having to learn like just the basics of binary so that I could be the guy that could read the computers. And like, oh yeah, no, it's 4 and 7.
Yeah.
And 3 and 2, and like just that was just hilarious to me that Bungie was like, nah, we know we've got enough coders out there playing this game that they'll figure this out.
Yeah, and I think that's with looking at things like The Last Wish with like the Wall of Wishes. I'm excited to see what they're going to do with the Black Garden, because they've done things like that for these kind of weird raids, and it looks like they're finally understanding like, oh, people like our weird raids. They like
the bigger raids.
They like the big stuff that feels odd.
Yeah.
And I think Black Garden has, out of anything, the most potential to be something like that.
I totally agree. I think it has the most potential to be the most exciting raid, story-wise and everything else-wise. Like weapons. I love the armor so far. I know people are upset about that, but I will keep saying that I love the armor.
Yeah.
And I just like, the Black Garden to me is like the pinnacle of weird mystery from Destiny 1.
Yeah.
And I'm just like so excited to go back there and be like, I just hope Praedyth pops in at some point. I know that doesn't make any sense lore-wise, but I just want him to show up.
Can you imagine if you go into the past and all of a sudden, instead of Tolan guiding you, you get Praedyth?
Or, dude, what if when you go so what if you go into the past and you have Praedyth talking to you when you go into the past, and then let's say if you go into the future, you have the stranger talking to you. Mm-hmm. She pipes in and she's like, hey, you're here. And she's like, this is what's happening. This is what's going on. She's like, oh my gosh, you're at a really important time.
Yeah.
She's like, everything changes here. And then you cut back or something.
Yeah. And then in the present, you get Kabir.
And in the present, you get Kabir, or you get, who else would be interesting?
Osiris probably would be.
Yeah, Osiris would probably be in the present. Yeah, because
Yeah.
he's still around.
Yeah. So you get
Dang, dude,
Osiris.
wouldn't that be wild?
That would be crazy. That would be awesome. As I've said before, we should be raid designers.
Oh yeah, dude.
We joke about that. Obviously, we don't know how to do anything else.
No, we have nothing.
How complicated that would be.
I have no idea how to even make a gun shoot or what that even entails.
No, I mean, like, it's very complicated. I've started trying to do, like, Maya 3D to even just do, like, little gray block level design, and it's insane. So we won't pretend to know anything more than Bungie does.
I don't know anything.
But I think the thing I'm most excited about with the story is just the foundation of being in a place where we're getting multiple enemies again.
Right.
One thing, I think that's something people haven't really chatted about very much, is that, like, the Red War, every mission was Cabal.
Oh,
like,
I
the
know.
Fallen showed up a little bit in there, here, there, and, you know.
Yeah.
And then you look at Osiris, it was Vex, and the Cabal were there. But, I mean, like,
Right.
it was just Vex were all over the place with that.
Well, actually, it's been that with pretty much all of them. Like, Black Armory was mainly Fallen.
Yeah.
Drifter was other Guardians, I guess.
Drifter was...
The nine?
Who knows?
I don't know. There was no enemy. You were just playing Gambit way too much.
Yeah.
And then...
Menagerie is
mainly Hive.
Is mainly Hive. Yeah, that's true.
Because Crown of Sorrow is...
Crown of Sorrow, yeah. Like, that's the big bad. And
is the big bad, yeah.
And I'm just excited to have...
two enemy
something-
races.
I'm just excited to have something that makes sense again. Like, the Menagerie is cool, too, because it's like, oh, fun, we're fighting the Menagerie. We're building up Callus's thing.
But it's kind of funny because it's just like this hidden floor that we supposedly didn't know about on
Yeah.
the Leviathan, and I'm just like,
There's
I can buy that, but
Yeah.
it's okay.
Yeah.
Okay, whatever.
Well, and it just felt like these last few ones, like, let's look at the quote-unquote story of Black Armory. The few things that happen in that were you going to her and her being like, oh, yeah, we got to go reactivate another one. Because this guy deactivated another
well,
one.
and really the only thing you learn lore-wise from Black Armory is how 801 gets created, which doesn't make sense.
She also hates Guardians because of what happened.
Well,
with
yeah, I know,
Iron
but it
Lords.
doesn't make sense that they would do all of that because she's not like a big player.
No. I don't... Yeah, it is bizarre. Maybe she will be later.
But it's weird because if you think about it, they introduced this brand new character, and then she has nothing to do. But at least it was about the Drifter for the next season, and then it kind of compounded on Callus a little bit with Season of Opulence. So, like, these are characters that we already know, and you're just adding to their mythos, and that makes sense.
I'm hoping that 801 has something to do in this next season. I don't know if she will.
I don't think she will for
But I think
2 more
she's-
seasons. I think after Season of Dawn, I think we'll probably see her come back for something.
I want to see her as a story character. I don't want to see her as
Yeah,
some
me too.
vendor. I want to see her doing something because I'm curious to see what she's like in events. You know what I mean? And then what I'm really excited about is that I think the Drifter is going to be more involved in this story than people think he is.
Oh,
Because
interesting.
I think that he is clever with the Taken and also with, like, what's going on with the darkness and stuff like that. So he might feed into some weird thing that's going on. But my biggest thing is that I think there's going to be an expansion after even all these seasons. I'm seeing an expansion that comes at the very end of Destiny that just leaves a heavy cliffhanger for Destiny 3.
For Destiny 3.
But I think it's going to be really, really 9-centric.
I think it'll be I think they are going to end with something 9 heavy.
Yeah,
Very 9 heavy.
Yeah, I think we're going to get Trials of Osiris back.
I do
and
too.
we'll be talking about this when we go.
Or what if it's like Trials of Saint 14 is what I just...
Something like that.
Yeah.
Right. But I think Trials of the 9 will come back heavy hitter in the season or year 3 expansion.
I think Trials is going to come back in Season of the Dawn. That's my big prediction.
I think that it will too. But one thing that I think will happen, it'll either be Season of the Dawn or the season following. It will be really strike-centric storylines where we're going and we're cleaning up some messes. I think that's a good way to go because then you can kind of put the strike together and get some side story through
I
that.
think Season of the Dawn is going to be their chance to tie up the horrible mess that the Osiris DLC was.
I think Dawn, whenever you hear Dawn, Sunlight,
Yeah, you think of Osiris.
you think of Osiris. Yeah.
And I think it's their chance to kind of tie that up and fix some things.
Well, especially with the Vex leading into something.
Right, and that compounds on the idea that we had last time where we talked about maybe the seasonal enemy is leading into what the next DLC drop is, and the next DLC is based around that enemy type, and then the season is about a new enemy type that leads into the next seasonal DLC.
What I like is that this idea of, even if it's a little more drip fed with these story seasonal stuff, I'm just excited that they're trying to say, like, you know, with this last season we had Black Armory, Drifter,
Yep.
you know, and the cutoff, and then
even with excited for them to tie together.
Yeah, for them to like roll into this final one, because like what that feels like is that they're gonna say, okay, we got 3 seasons to lead up to this huge final year 3 expansion.
Right.
And that's what I'm really excited about, is that to see all these things kind of culminate in this big war almost. I think that
I think they're totally setting up the War of the Light and Dark. And I cannot wait.
And I think the final expansion will just end on a note where I think they saw Cade die. They saw what that did. I think they're gonna be a lot looser
with the
letting
characters.
People eat it
bite
for
the
good
dust.
reasons.
Bite the dust. Totally.
And like I'm seeing with them talking about Zavala and stuff like that, I'm seeing that he might go.
Dude, so here's an interesting thought. Like, what if Eris dies at the end of this season based on like the mistake that she made?
What are you talking about? The mistake? Like, what?
So you know how like they said Ada 1 would come in and then she would disappear at the end? Like that was the theoretical thing?
Yeah.
What if that's what happens to Eris Morn in this DLC? She pops in, she fucks things up, and she tries to fix it, and then she ends up dying, and that's what leads us. That's what pushes the narrative forward into the next season. Like that would be crazy.
That would be crazy, because I mean, like, I guess they have the potential to tie up some things with Eris, because this feels like that point in the story where you can be like, oh yeah, Eris has hit that point where she's like, we have to finish what we started, and that might be her finishing her story. But I also see her being really involved with the fight of the darkness.
No, I could see that too. But I just I think it'd be so interesting to lead into the next season with the death of a major character.
Well, that's why I think with Zavala, like we've seen with this story situation going on, where he's like, you see his shame and what he said about Eris, and just like he's already been ashamed with the Red War, where he's just allowed himself to. He talks about how he was like, I left them. I wasn't capable.
I became a coward.
I'm afraid of losing my life and things like that. Same with Ikora.
Yeah.
I think I could see either Ikora or Zavala sacrificing themselves to end Eris's cause.
I could.
Because either Zavala as this thing of like reaffirming that he's like, I am supposed to be a leader of anyone, like, and not being this shameful or things like that. And then also with Ikora just rekindling something with her friend and trying to find that strength that she's been missing for a long time. So I could see either of them going. Because I think what they're leading to is like this. I think they want the Vanguard to feel a little more fresh and involved.
Right, which I think they kind of started doing with like the Praxic Order.
Yeah.
When they came in, and they did that weird kind of 2-sided story there where you pick the Vanguard or you pick the Drifter, which I think was kind of setting more things up than we realized.
That was the best part of the season of the Drifter.
That and the little 9 stuff.
Yeah.
The invitations of the 9, which were cool.
That's okay. One thing I'm going to say about story, since we're speculating, I hope they don't continue doing weekly things that you can run. I know they probably will.
Yeah.
But I want them to be like, the Dreaming City did it right, where it wasn't the focus. It was like an extra thing that you could learn extra stuff about, and it's feeding into really far down the line content. And the 9 does that a little with the Drifter, but that was like the story of the season.
Yeah, no, I hope they don't. Well, and I know they're not going to do that this season, where like the story of the season is only the weekly thing. I don't think they're ever going to do that again. I know there's probably going to be a campaign that we go through.
I think we'll get cutscenes a week like we did with the Drifter, where we'll finish things up. Like, I think that we'll get story through like different strikes and different types of modes, and we'll hear a lot more things like with the Vex.
Right.
But I think each week we're gonna get one of those like more like, ooh, we're gonna go sit down and listen to like this little event that's happening, because I think they've been consistent with that. Even with the season of the Menagerie, like it wasn't as clear cut like that. It wasn't like you were going to a place every week.
Right.
But with the tribute hall, it was more of this like consistent kind of progression that you move through everything and you learn about this, and you got lore from that. You got lore from the Menagerie that was like teaching you things about Callus and what he'd seen
and what he thinks is going to happen and what his scions are recording for him and all of that kind of stuff. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And so I think that's more what they're leaning into, is that like you get these bonus things for just playing the game. I think having something that was like, do this and you get this story content.
Right.
I think it was restrictive to people who didn't have the time every week. Like they weren't hard goals by any means.
No.
But if you missed a week, you fell behind a week. That was what I thought was the dumbest thing they did.
That is tough.
If on the next weekend you weren't able to do it, pick up the last one last weekend, you fell behind a week.
Right.
That's almost punishment for not
Yeah.
for not being able to put in the time because you had some family event going on or something like that.
Sure.
And it's like, I think that you should have been able to pick up multiple ones. Like you finished
I
one.
do think they should
They should have made
as
it where
soon
like,
as it's released, you should be able to do all of them in a row if you want.
and you
know?
have to finish one before you do the next one.
Right.
But you could do them whenever you want.
You could get caught up to whatever that is that week.
Yeah, like it wasn't just from, like if you went to Zur on that Saturday, you're like, oh, I can pick up both, but one is restricted until I finish the other one.
Right, or like maybe he only has one available and you finish it and then you go back to him and you can grab the next one and you can do that until he disappears. Until you're caught up.
Right, and that's what I thought was the thing that they should
That was
have
kind of the
done.
one thing that I was like, that is
fair,
kind of lame
yeah.
because like the content's already out there. So just let them access it. Because once the one has dropped, you know, and you've dropped
because now
the
you're
next
just
piece,
encouraging people to just watch a video of it and not do the
and
content
not
anymore.
not even play the game, which to me is like, oh, that's lame.
Yeah. Well, they put so much weight on powerful rewards,
Right.
that they wanted another one to get another powerful reward.
Right.
Where I'm really glad to hear that, like legendaries, for instance, like world drops are gonna at least give you a level now,
Or
at least give you something,
or
your
give you a
level.
chance to give you a level.
Yeah, and like so, it's like I can just play the game and progressively level up. I don't have to do these consistent, powerful engrams every single week.
Right.
And but yeah.
So okay, so I just remembered there was an article. I cannot remember. It was like I think it was like 2 months ago, literally, and they were talking about when Shadowkeep first got announced. It was like the week after, and the interviewer asked a question about one of the story, and I think it was Deej. I can't remember who it was, or Scott Taylor. I think it was Scott Taylor, and he's like, "There's a character that returns." Because we already knew Eris was coming back, and he's like, "There's a character that returns that I'm really, really excited about, and I don't want to spoil anything, but it's someone very cool and very cool to the lore." And I'm just wondering, right off like the top of your head, who you think like that could be that returns?
No.
Yeah, it's Praetor.
It's Praetor. I know what it is.
It's Hive related, bro. Of course, it's Praetor. No, but seriously, what is your actual guess?
My actual guess that pops into my head. Okay, let's see. I'm gonna let my mind think and see what name pops up.
Because I actually think Toland could come back.
As a physical character.
As like a physical, so like I think he might be one of those shadows you interact with. Not like an actual person, but he could be, he finds a little form in the little shadow thing that we're encountering.
The one thing I disagree with that is that I don't think they would be as excited about that because we've already explored Toland and Forsaken.
I guess that's true. Yeah.
You know, like he was really a big part of Forsaken.
Yeah, he was,
like in the Dreaming City, you could talk to him, you could get different stuff, you got a lot of lore about him. And what I think is going to happen more so, because I feel like he's more involved with like the Taken.
That's true. Yeah, he could be more involved with the Taken. I mean, but
he's
he was
more of, like,
obsessed
Hive
with the
Taken.
Hive.
Yeah, he was. But I think that like he was obsessed with Ascendant Realms.
Right.
And I think that like we've explored Ascendant Realms. I don't think these Hive have Ascendant Realms. I think they're followers of the darkness. I don't think they follow the sword logic.
Yeah. Do you think we see? Oh man. So do you think?
What I'm gonna say?
Yeah.
Let me say real quick. I think it's gonna be the Stranger.
I was gonna say, could it be Marasov or could it be the Stranger?
I don't think. Yeah, because I think Marasov is being saved for a bigger event because
she left
with the Stranger
to go see the Stranger.
Right. And I think she's gonna come back first.
Okay.
And I think she's gonna come back with the Vex because I think
it is the
Eris,
moon, and that's where you meet the Stranger.
Right.
And look at her for the first time.
I think Eris is gonna come back with the Hive, and then we're gonna have somebody come back with the Vex, and I think that's gonna be the Stranger.
Whoa.
I think it's gonna be we know who it is. It's Elsie Bray. I think she'll come back and she'll be like, all right, the Vex, the Undying Mind is here.
Yeah.
And it's like, I need you to do something for me again because now I've got time to explain. Like,
Yes.
I've got time to explain about what's going on. These invasions are happening.
Oh,
We
yeah.
gotta stop
This is
these.
just the beginning.
This is just the beginning of something else. Because the Vex, now that we're connecting it to the darkness, now we can feel like, ooh, the Stranger was totally going for the darkness.
Yes.
She
Oh,
was
yeah.
involved with the Vex because they knew we were associated with. She's like, okay, you gotta help me with this.
She's like, there's
And that
this
sets it
moment
up-
in the future where you guys are gonna have to stop the Vex from doing this thing, and well, God, dude, what if this is it?
Yeah, I think. Well, I don't think it's. If it's gonna be it, I think it'll be an expansion. Like,
No, I know, but I mean, the raid could be like you're stopping.
Yeah, that's true.
The initial thing.
That's true, and she could be the person talking to you through the raid.
right.
Is Elsie Bray?
How wild would that?
That
be?
would be awesome, and I think that would actually. What's really cool with us saying about Osiris being in the next one, who she's talking to on the thing, is Osiris, and Season of Dawn shows you what they were saying to each other, and now you jump from, okay, you got the Vex, you got to go help Osiris because he needed this to happen for you to go do this other thing.
Yes. Oh, yes. Yes.
And-
And it's she's like, and then it starts this little effect, and that carries you and pushes you into the next season. She's
Yeah.
like, now you have to go see Osiris because he's got something for you that we
Yeah.
finally.
And she's like, I got somebody else I got to go see, and that's Mara.
Yes.
And she leaves.
She leaves.
And
yeah.
then you're waiting, and then you know that final expansion is going to be Osiris, Mara,
Oh, yeah.
the Stranger, like
Eris.
whoever's
Oh, yeah.
left,
Oh, yeah.
everybody being like, all right, this is what we've been prepared for, and we lose.
Oh yeah.
I think we lose at the end of Destiny 2, and then Destiny 3 starts in this world of ruin.
That would be like
That's
you have
what
to
I'm
collapse
looking for.
again.
Yeah, I think it's like it's going to be like
That
a
would be
secondary.
the only way that they could
I
get
think
around giving us our stuff when we go into the next.
Yeah, I
Destiny.
think we lose, and I think the Traveler is dead.
Really.
I think it's going to be killed at the end
Whoa,
of Destiny 2.
that's big
I
speculation.
know,
This
it's
just
really-
started as Shadowkeep and Garden
Yeah.
of Salvation
Yeah,
speculation.
but no, that's my big thing is that like I think they're
I don't
going
have
for this
anything
big
that
thing
bold.
where the Traveler's gonna try and like fight against it, and it's gonna get killed, and we're gonna have to learn how to be something else in the third game.
Oh, you have to harness the darkness, which is that kind
Yeah.
of tease that they made,
Right.
and that's kind of
and
where
you're gonna have to fight darkness with darkness.
that's kind of what Shin Malphur is kind of hinting towards too. Is
Yeah.
he's like, you're the one. He's like, you're the one that can do both.
yeah.
All right. I mean, I can definitely see where you're headed with that. That is cool.
Yeah.
I like
It's
that.
Wild.
That is wild.
And it's not gonna happen. I don't think.
I don't
But-
think so either.
But
But
I
that
think
is freaking cool.
I think it's. I would say 75% chance it's Elsie Bray in Season of Undying. That's excited that he's excited to come back
That
because
would
they've
be
made a couple
wild.
references to her in every single drop. There's been at least a little bit about Elsie showing up.
That's true.
everywhere.
Even weird weird nod here and there towards her. That's for sure.
Yeah, so I think that like he's saying like we're excited for this character to come back because people are gonna be like freaking finally.
Oh, I know, dude.
And that's why I think he's saying that they're excited because it's like I can't think of another character that people would be like, heck yeah, okay, finally.
and they
this is
do
what we
kind
want.
of hint because they show the model, the Stranger's rifle,
Yeah,
in the background of
And
No
I
Time
think-
to Explain.
I think that the Stranger's rifle is gonna be one of the surprise exotic quests, like because I think they've been rolling with these like
These surprise exotic quests
and
are
they're all
so
pulses.
cool. Oh, and they're so cool.
And they're
they
all
are all
pulses.
pulses. Ah,
and the
keeping with
Stranger's
theme.
rifle is a pulse, and I think that they're gonna keep that theme of.
I
like,
hope they don't call it the No Time to Explain. I want them to call it the Stranger's Rifle.
I think
again.
they'll call it Stranger's Rifle because they're like pulling back. I think that's why this whole season about nostalgia.
And I
so
hope
they'll be
it's
like-
yellow
It's gonna be yellow and purple. It's
Yeah.
gonna be that again, I think.
or yellow and blue.
And I think it's gonna have a perk where it fires faster every kill you get.
That would be, dude. I don't care what it is or what it comes back as. I just want it to be called a Stranger's Rifle. That's it.
Yeah. But that's what I'm saying. Is it's just like
That sounds cool.
yeah. But anyways, that's pretty far out speculation. We've gone pretty deep down the rabbit hole, I think.
Oh yeah, we definitely took it for a spin there.
Yeah. So maybe let's conclude with our last comments about where we think the story will go.
Perfect.
You want to make? You make your prediction. I'll
Okay.
make mine.
Okay. All right. So in Shadowkeep, I think Eris is going to uncover something that leads us to the darkness, and that's what kind of brings the Guardians up out of kind of the ground. So she's going to be kind of the one that unleashes them, and we're going to meet Elsie in the Garden of Salvation, and we're going to see the darkness for the first time at the end of the Garden of Salvation, I think.
Okay. My prediction is similar. I think Eris is gonna find out that this is a different sect of Hive that isn't related to the Taken, and that Crota has come back as a nightmare, but she's just, I think all of her fears have risen because these Hive are manipulating fear, and they're gonna bring that in and try to take down the darkness or take down the Guardians using that kind of thread of the darkness.
Okay.
And then that's going to lead into this awakening of the garden, because I think some of these nightmares are going to be fed into the garden because we have that portal on the moon, and that's what's going to wake up. This darkness is going to be fed into the garden, wake up the Vex, and that's going to, Elsie's going to show up and be like, okay, this is where we need to stop this cataclysm from happening, because the next event, if this doesn't happen, we definitely lose in the next event. And I think that's going to lead, and then she's going to lead us into the Season of Dawn with Osiris after we beat the Undying Mind for
the last time.
For good.
And that's why he goes away, and that would make sense.
Right. Okay, that's it. And I'm Ethan.
And I'm Taylor.
Thanks for listening to Pray This Party Chat.
And just remember, Guardians make their own fate.